There we go. All right. So, definitely pray for me because I'm nervous. And I was going over it a while ago, and it was like I just blubbered through it. So, when I was reviewing it. Well, what I might do is if y'all are in agreement, I might get y'all to read some of the verses. That's what I blubber through. I can sit up here and talk all day long, but when I start reading something, I get so nervous that I just forget where I am. So, but let's, Ryan, will you open us in prayer? Thank you. All right, so we're going to be in the book of Job. Now, y'all are going to have better memories than me because we've got these books, and I think y'all probably already been introduced to these. And Joe had Esther last Wednesday. He didn't quite finish it up, and he's going to finish it next Wednesday. So you're going to get the book of Job, and then back to Esther, and then. You had a different one because there's two different books. Yes. You were on Jacob Sunday night. Joseph on Sunday night. So you'll have to remember where you left off. But hopefully we can kind of get through the main part of Job here tonight because Job is one of the oldest books in the Bible. Okay, it's a very old tale. Okay. You know, Genesis was probably one of the oldest, but Job was right up there, okay? And it's a great story that a lot of people over the years can relate to themselves and problems and situations or whatever they're having in their lives, especially, because, when problems come, we all have problems, right? We all have trials and tribulations that we go through, especially as Christians, I think, because the devil really sometimes when you start getting in the right direction, he throws it at you hard, I think. So we can all relate a little bit to Job. And, looking back in history, when people have lost everything that they have, if they do not lift that up to Christ, it's a burden sometimes is overbearing. They cannot handle it. Think about the 1930s, Great Depression. The stock market crashed. Had investors and stockbrokers jumping off the tops of buildings, right? And when I was a kid, and I didn't understand it totally, I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. The fellow that owned the snapper dealership in town, his business went south. They were going to lose their lake house, and they were kind of a well-to-do family. And they decided to take another route. He ended up shooting his wife, then shooting himself. And it was all financial based. And of course, he didn't give that problem up to the Lord, and it ended very, very badly. At that time, I didn't quite understand that, lifting your problems up. And, maybe if he would have lifted that up to the Lord, and because the Lord can handle anything, that would have ended a lot different, okay? Because you can make a fortune, lose it, make another one again, and the Lord will be with you the whole way. All right. So in the book of Job, we're going to kind of split this up in kind of 3 different main sections. We're going to kind of look at Job himself, okay? Look at the conversation that the Lord and Satan had about Job, and then look what Satan did, okay? Because, Job was a great man, okay? We'll get into that in a minute. he did not see that conversation that the Lord and Satan had. He had no clue, because we have hindsight, right? People say, oh, we studied that, we knew what happened. He did. It was happening right then. He didn't know what was going on. And God was silent at that point to him. Okay? So, how he handled that was he handled it very well, because he did not know the hindsight. He did not know that the Lord put him in the forefront of that, because, he believed in him. Okay? And he knew what was going to happen. Okay? And then we see what happens to him towards the end. All right. Who wouldn't mind reading? We'll just read chapters 1 through 5, starting out the gate, and then kind of break them down from there, verse by verse. I think a lot of people like that in the past. So who's at the book of Job and wouldn't mind reading 1 through 5? Yeah. Oh, no. Verses. Verses. Chapter 1, 1 through 5 verses. Yeah, go ahead and read 5 chapters, 1 through 5. Go ahead and knock that out there. We'll wait on you. So, yeah, I probably did say chapters. I meant verses. So sometimes you got to listen to what I mean, not what I say. I've got my wife finally doing that, and we get along a lot better now.
Scary. I started getting blurry here. All right, here we go. There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, and that man was blameless, upright, fearing God and turning away from evil. 7 sons and 3 daughters were born to him. His possessions also were 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, and very many servants. And that man was the greatest of all in the men of the east. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When the days of feasting had completed their cycle, Job would send and consecrate them, rising up early in the morning and offering burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, perhaps my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus Job did continue.
Okay. So, and I like that too, because mine said, mine's King James, and it's kind of the old school. A little bit different. It's all the same, pretty much the same everything, but just a little different wording. And I think that version was a little bit easier to interpret than what I've been kind of fumbling through. But the first one, the verse, not chapter, but first verse, he says that a man was perfect and upright, and one that feared God and eschewed evil. Now, when the Lord said this, he's not saying that Job was perfect like he was, okay? Because all men have sinned and fell short of the glory of God, right? So he's saying that compared to the world and to other men at that time, and in religion and everywhere, secular and everything, he was a perfect candidate, perfect image of what you should be. And he was upright, and he did not fall into evil. Okay, that means his fellow man could not find him guilty of any sin that become him. Okay, so that kind of says a lot about him. And this is the Lord, kind of saying this there, and that's pretty. I'd be very honored if they said that about me. So he's really talking his character up right here. And then he said in the next one, and born 7 sons and 3 daughters. Okay? There's different types of wealth. We heard last Sunday, how the emphasis is putting children, right? They were, he had a wife, 4 children. The second wife couldn't divorce, so he gave her the maid, 4 children. Then the first wife stopped 4 children, gave her the maid, had more children. So they put a huge emphasis on families and the number of children that you had in this time. So that was part of the wealth. most of your wealth was measured land, animal, and servants, and the family come along with that, as part of that household. Okay, and obviously he had the wealth as far as the physical wealth, as far as he had 1,000 sheep, 3,000 camels. That's probably the most valuable thing right there is the camels, because they utilized camels in this time period for travel and to transport goods through the land. Okay, so camels back then was kind of like our cars. It's like having 3,000 cars. He had a fleet of camels. All right, so that to show, and then the oxen, the beasts, the burdens, the donkeys, and he said he had a great house as well. Let me skip back to his family. It was interesting that he said 7 sons and 3 daughters, because at this time in history, a lot of the daughters and females were not recorded. They only recorded the male side of the equation, because they were not, I guess, valued as equal as men. But this tells us that Job valued the women in his family. He really lifted them up and had a high esteem for the women in his family too. So that was kind of unique at this time, that they did mention the daughters, because that really tied that family unit together as far as male and female as well. All right? And then another thing, the last verse, where they come and all eat, and afterwards he sent up a burnt offering. Well, he was the religious leader of his family. Okay? He was sending up burnt offerings for him and everyone else in his house. That showed that this was a religious family. And this is the first religious family that's really spoken about in the Bible. Okay? And if you think of like Moses, he would send up burnt offerings. He was the religious, pretty much the head of the religion and the example of his family, because they kind of acted as priests pretty much. Because there's not as many people on the planet. They're spread out, over a large area. So priests are probably not in every part of the land at this point. So he's taken that on himself to be the religious leader of his family. Okay? So that's kind of talking a little bit about his background, his family, and his wealth. And so any questions on those 5 verses that we've looked at so far? All right. So who would like to read verses 6 through 12? We'll kind of break those down a little bit. Anybody? I can read them, but okay. So now there was a day when the Son of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came along among them. So we'll just stop right here. So now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. Now Jesus wasn't making an early appearance. We're not talking about the Son of God as Jesus that we know. Okay? We are talking about the angels. The ministering angels came together to give a report of God. Okay? Satan, what is he? At the end of the day, especially in the beginning, what was he? He was an angel, right? So he still has access to the heavenly realm here. Okay? So he was an angel. He didn't say only the good angels came together. He said, and Satan, which means the good angels and Satan. So Satan means adversary. Okay? So he's the adversary of God. So he shows up at this meeting. And the Lord said unto Satan, Whence cometh thou? And Satan answers the Lord and says, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So he's almost taken a physical form too. So he can come in many forms, right? He can be a thought. He can be a kind of a spirit, a negative spirit that kind of pushes you the wrong way. And this, he's taken more of a physical form, walking up and down. Okay? And, he's the adversary of the Lord, right? So he's kind of challenging the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and eschewed evil. Okay? So, pretty much the Lord's vouching for Job. He said, hey, he's a perfect model of a man. Okay? I know the Lord, if he come today, he probably would say, have you thought about John David? Yeah. I'd probably be pretty low on the list. Okay? But, that is kind of almost honored, that God, the Lord said, thought about my servant Job. I mean, he's vouching for Job. Because the Lord knows everything, past, present, future, right? He knows what's going to happen, and he knows what character and then how much integrity Job has in him, okay? So he's pretty much vouching. If this verse was written in West Virginia 50 years ago, it was said, the Lord said that dog because he believes, he knows it, right? All right? So he said, and eschewed evil, okay? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, Doth Job fear God not? So pretty much right there, Satan's saying, hey, does he really fear you? Or is he worried about losing him? Does he fear you because of what you've done for him? Or does he fear you because he's worried about losing him? Okay? So he's kind of challenging the Lord in a way here. He is. And has not thou made a hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath is on every side? Thou hast blessed the works of his hand, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he... let's stop right there. Let me read that in a minute. So, the Lord's saying, you're protected. I can't touch you. You have a hedge around you. But if you tear down that hedge and let me touch him, it's going to be different. He's not going to be a man of God that you think he is. Okay? So, with that said, then Jesus says, put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. Actually, Satan's still speaking right there. He said, if you let me touch him, he'll curse your name. And so then and the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from this presence of the Lord. So the Lord said, all right, everything that he has, you can't touch him. Okay? So pretty much, as we said, it's a conversation between the Lord and Satan. He said, hey, you let me take everything from him, he's going to curse you. The Lord said, all right, show me, but you can't touch him. All right? So, that's that conversation that the Lord and Satan had that Job has no clue about at this point. He's happy in his house right now, doing what he does every day. And he has no clue what's about to happen. All right? So, let's see, present. So, okay. And there was the day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job, and said, The oxen were plowing, and the donkeys feeding beside them. And the Sabines fell unto them, and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only escaped alone to tell you. Okay? You'll hear that again here in just a minute. So the Sabines were a nomadic people that lived to the south of Job. So they attacked, pretty much. Took the oxen, slain all of his servants. So he just lost all his oxen and all the servants that were with him, or with the oxen, and they left one to tell the story. And here's something else you're going to hear again. While he was yet speaking, okay, this is going to be right after other. This is showing that it's consecutive, one after the other. Boom, boom, boom. When it rains, it pours. Okay, so when he was still speaking is going to be a common denominator too. All right. There came another and said, The fire of God is fallen from the heavens, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Okay? So, here's one thing Satan's good at. He's good at putting seeds in your mind, too. You know, and then you dwell on them. We never do that, do we? And we start thinking about something, and, you know, it's human nature, I think, sometimes to think about the worst case scenario. I don't know if y'all do that, but I always like to say I plan for the worst and hope for the best. You know? So the servants didn't say, hey, lightning struck, killing all the sheep, or a volcano. We don't know exactly what happened. But fire come from the heavens. Okay? So it's kind of like the servant, when he said that, I think the devil had a little influence in that. Is, you know, when he said that, because he put a seed, the fire of God is fallen from the heavens, was the exact what he said. Okay? So it was like that God had something to do with it, which he didn't. Satan, right? But the fire from God, that's what the servant said. The fire from God fell. So he just lost all the sheep and all the servants then. While he was still speaking, there came another and said, The Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell into the camels, and have carried them away and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and only am escaped alone to tell thee. So here's another nomadic tribe that lived in the area. Come in, stole all his camels. All right? So he's getting hit by all sides right now. All right? And the worst one of yet is to come. While he was yet speaking, another came, also another, and said, Thy son and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness, smote the 4 corners of the house. It fell unto the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Okay? So he just lost his family. He just lost everything he had. Sheep, oxen, donkeys, camels, and family. And servants. So my county should have at least 4 servants in there. 0 livestock and 0 children at this point. All right? And that's a pretty tough pill to swallow. Especially your kids. Because it's not natural to bury your kids, right? Kids are supposed to bury their fathers and mothers. All right? So the loss of a child, much less all of them at one time, is just devastating in itself. Okay? And I'm sure that, and we'll see how he grieved, but, you know, there's been a lot of studies. You know, we actually have classes now to help producers deal with losses. Because there's different types of losses. There's loss of an animal, loss of a loved one, loss of, money, financial, and each one of those you grieve differently. So he's grieving in different ways right now, all at once. Okay? And it's a lot. It's one after the other, too. He didn't have time to say, okay, somebody stole our oxen. Round up the boys and let's go get them back. Get your swords, your shields, let's go. He didn't even have time. It was one after the other. So he doesn't have any way of even going after them at this point because all his servants are dead, too. But he's probably not worrying about that after his sons and daughters because livestock, that's whatever compared to your family. Okay? So then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down unto the ground and worshipped. Okay? And said, naked came I out of the mother's womb, and naked shall I return. Thou the Lord giveth, and the Lord hath taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And in all this, Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. So he didn't say, "Why, Lord?" He didn't cuss the Lord. He didn't cuss the Lord's name. What did he do? He fell down and worshipped. Okay, and that was a real sign of his integrity as a Christian, because I've seen a lot of people lose family members. They stop going to church. They blame it on God. And they say, why is he punishing me? Well, I don't think he's punishing you. But that's where Job is right now. He's hurting. He's hurting. He lost a lot of everything he had, except his wife. And he has 3 friends, too. It's not going to make anything better here in a little bit. So, and we're just kind of talk instead of just reading verse by verse here. But any questions on that? Comments? So now, he has lost everything but his health and his wife and a couple servants. Okay? So, the Lord and Satan then go back and have another conversation. Okay? Some of it's repeated back. He said, hey, if you take away his health, he's going to curse you. All right? So, the Lord pretty much said the same thing he did in the beginning. He said, go forth, but you cannot take his life. So what did he do to him? Remember, anybody know? What did he do to him for his health? Satan. Boils from head to toe. From the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, boils. It was painful. It was itchy. It's just terrible. And they said he sat down in a pile of ash. And then his wife come along. Okay, well, let's see what she said. If I can find it. Number 9. 2:9. All right. So, then said his wife unto thee, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. What shall we receive God at the hands of... What shall we receive good at the hands of God, and shall we not receive evil? In all this did not Job sin with his lips. So, he said, that's foolish to curse God. Okay? And then, we're not going to read that would be reading several chapters, the conversations that his friends had. But his friends come in there and didn't make the situation better. There's at least 2 of them that pretty much said, hey, you done something. You lost all your livestock, you lost all your family, your health is gone. What did you do? You done something. Okay? And that is the world we live in today, too. They're quick to judge, right? Blast you. They didn't have Facebook to blast them on back then. They probably chiseled it on stone. But, they pretty much accused him of doing something wrong and being outside God's graces. Okay? And that can take a toll on you, too. Social, interactions where you're you're under the magnifying glass and they're accusing you of something you know you didn't do. I know nobody, that's never happened to nobody in here, right? But I know that's a hard thing to pill to swallow, because I've had people accuse me of stuff that I didn't even know nothing about. So, and that gives you anxiety. That gives you, you're overthinking everything, and it just makes you worry even more. Okay? And so, at the end, God showed Himself in a whirlwind and kind of, soothed. Because at this point, he's starting to have questions. He's like, why is this happening? He's not cursing God, but he's asking a question. And I think that's legitimate. I mean, if I just lost everything, I'd be like, why, Lord? Why me? And, in the end, he kind of reveals that, the world is more complex than just what humans can understand, too. And, that kind of helped Job kind of get over that and working through that with his friends, because, one of them wasn't more accusing, but just said, hey, you need to look at this another light as well. So, he got hit with everything. He got hit financially, his family, his friends, his probably relationship with his wife. Notice she didn't die. So, she's probably telling him everything about it too. But he got hit in every direction you could get hit, but he still believed in God and did not curse the Lord and all this. And that took the most integrity I think anybody in the Bible could have. So that was kind of what I was tasked to cover. But any questions or any comments or anything that y'all want to add to that? But, I think that's a great story for everybody to know. I mean, it's not the most exciting story, at that time. I'd say that was a pretty big deal if you have somebody in your community that went through all that and just lost everything. That's always the talk of the town, right? So that probably was a big deal. Yes.
We're not ever going to be like Jesus until we get to heaven, but we'll be here. That's our goal. We always try to be as good as what Jesus was. So let's knock it down a notch. We don't have to be as good as Jesus, maybe. Let's try to be as good as Job. Man, that's still
That's still a tough call right there. Because, of course, everyone that passes away, they have family. So, but hopefully it's not all of them at the same time. And Paul, he had so many trials and tribulations. He was pretty much, it went on a death march to his death, the traveling over all the persecution that he saw. And, what I'm afraid about, right now, we're good as Christians in America. We're not. You're starting to see a little bit more persecution, but hopefully we never go through that as what Paul went through, persecution as being a Christian. But yeah, every story in the Bible and the whole most of the lot in here is to say, hey, how can we be better? How can we be better every day? How can we handle situations better? How can we be more Christian? To be more like Jesus. We're never going to be obviously like Jesus, or you're right. That's still a tall order to be like Job. No, it was right after the other. And think about all the foolishness that's going on in today's world towards, you cannot turn on the TV and look at a news report without seeing something that's foolish against God, especially in politics a lot of times. They're leading our country, So there's a lot of foolishness that happens today that I think we need to stand up against. Yes. Yes. Most definitely. Amen. Amen. And and I think it's a little easier on us too because we have Jesus now. We know that He died for His sins, and we know that, I'm not sure in Job's time how much of this was put together and how much he knew the Lord. He had the concept of God, and he knew he served God. But as far as what we know now, how much Job knew at that time too. So we have a lot of information, I think, that he probably didn't have, and he still kept his faith. So. And it does show that he knew God had a plan, and in every funeral you go to, you usually hear that verse: "Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away." A lot of times, and I think that's helped soothe the family too. Because the Lord has a plan for everything and a reason. He did. And then if we could do that with half our stuff today, I think we'll be good. Well, that's all I have for tonight. But yeah, I've been nervous. So, I don't know about that. I didn't put anybody totally asleep. But Paul, would you like to close us in prayer?